They'll never say it out loud. They'll smile when you walk into the room, nod when you speak, maybe even applaud when you win. But deep down, beneath the surface, they're hoping you trip. They want you to stumble. They need you to fall, because your rise threatens everything they pretend to be. It's a hard truth, one that most people can't stomach. The majority of people you know are not rooting for your success. Not truly. They might tolerate it when it's distant, abstract, or small. But the moment you start pulling ahead, when your life begins to outshine theirs in undeniable ways, that's when the shift begins. The support becomes passive, the praise becomes scarce, and the smiles become forced. We live in a world that pretends to value success, but secretly worships safety. People love to see others do well, just not better than them. That line, that invisible threshold where admiration turns into resentment, is where most of your silent opposition lives. And if you don't recognize it, if you don't learn to spot the subtle signs of sabotage and envy, it will chip away at your confidence, drain your energy, and eventually make you question if you deserve what you've built. This is not paranoia, this is pattern recognition. In this first part of the series, we're going to expose the psychology behind this phenomenon. Why do most people secretly want you to fail? What's happening inside them when they see someone like you rising? And how do you protect yourself, mentally, emotionally, even spiritually, against this silent war that most people don't even admit they're part of? We start here, with the truth, the reality of envy, why your success bothers them. To understand why people quietly root against you, you first need to grasp what envy truly is. Envy isn't just wanting what someone else has. It's resentment that someone has something you feel you should have too. It's comparison soaked in bitterness. Unlike admiration, which can inspire us, envy consumes. It feeds off insecurity, off perceived inadequacy. The envious person doesn't just wish for what you have, they feel insulted that you have it instead of them. Your success becomes a mirror, a brutal, unforgiving reflection of everything they're not doing, everything they could have been, but aren't. Most people don't consciously process this. They won't say, "I'm jealous of you." Instead, they'll mask it with sarcasm, distance, passive aggression, or backhanded compliments. They'll say things like, "Must be nice. You've changed. Some people get lucky." What they're really saying is, "I don't understand why you're moving forward while I'm stuck." The psychology of projection. The subconscious mind is constantly trying to protect itself from pain. One of its favorite defense mechanisms is projection, attributing one's own negative feelings onto someone else. When someone feels inadequate but refuses to face it, they project that inadequacy onto others. You start succeeding, and suddenly they accuse you of being arrogant. You become more confident, and now you're acting better than everyone else. In their mind, your growth becomes a threat, not because of what you're doing, but because of what it says about what they're not doing. The real danger here is that projection can become a campaign. People will begin to paint you as someone you're not, to justify their own discomfort. And if you're not grounded, if you're not locked into your own purpose, you might start to believe it. Friends, family, and the crab bucket mentality. There's a saying about crabs in a bucket. If one tries to escape, the others will pull it back down. Not because they hate it, but because escape breaks the illusion that they are all trapped together. Your success, especially if you come from humble beginnings or a tight-knit community, will be seen as betrayal, not intentionally, but symbolically. When you elevate, you disrupt the shared identity. And when people don't know how to process that, they'll try to pull you back down, not always out of hatred, but out of fear. Fear of losing connection, fear of being left behind, fear of having to look at themselves and ask, "Why not me?" This is why you'll often face the most resistance from those closest to you. Not because they're evil, but because your growth changes the emotional math of the relationship. And not everyone is ready for that shift. The cost of standing out. Most people live their lives blending in. They play by the rules, chase validation, and stay safely within the lines. So when someone like you steps out, chooses risk over comfort, truth over approval, it threatens the entire system. You become the living proof that it's possible, that they could have changed, that their excuses are just that, excuses. And that's dangerous. So they attack. Not always directly. Sometimes it's subtle. A snide comment here, a missed invitation there, a lack of support when you need it most. These are all quiet acts of resistance, the invisible war that begins the moment you decide to grow. How they sabotage you without even realizing it. Here's the twisted part. Some people sabotage you while genuinely believing they're helping. They'll discourage you from taking risks, not because they want you to fail, but because your potential failure would validate their decision to stay small. They'll say, "I just don't want you to get hurt. You should be more realistic. Not everyone makes it." What they mean is, if you succeed, it proves I could have tried too and didn't. They don't want you to fail because they hate you. They want you to fail because they need a world to make sense again. Your rise disrupted their reality, and failure would restore the balance. The social contract of mediocrity. Most people are part of an unspoken agreement. We won't try too hard, and in return, we won't make each other feel bad about it. This is the social contract of mediocrity. But when you break that contract, when you dare to want more, you become a threat. You shine too bright. You force people to see what they've avoided. You shake the collective comfort zone. You don't even have to say a word. Your actions alone are loud enough. This is why ambition is often punished socially, not with violence but with neglect, mockery, and cold shoulders. The tribe doesn't kill the outlier, but it exiles them, and that isolation can feel like death to the social brain. But it's not. It's rebirth. The silent war. Signs, patterns, hidden tactics of saboteurs. Most people won't stab you in the chest. They'll poke tiny holes in your boat and watch you sink from a distance. That's how the silent war works. There are no swords, no screaming matches, no obvious betrayals. Just distance, indifference, subtle sabotage. It's death by 1,000 cuts. And here's the brutal truth. It doesn't come from strangers. It comes from familiar faces, friends, co-workers, siblings, people who once celebrated your wins, until those wins became inconvenient reminders of their own stagnation. They still laugh with you, still text you, still show up. But something's changed. It's not what they say, it's what they don't. In this part, we're going to dissect the battlefield. We'll expose the silent war being waged against your growth using 3 weapons: psychological signs, behavioral patterns, and hidden sabotage tactics. If you've ever felt off around someone, if you've ever left a room feeling drained for no reason, if you've ever questioned your momentum after speaking to someone, chances are you've felt the weight of this war. It's time to put language to what your instincts already know. Section 1. Psychological signs of silent resentment. The first indicator of sabotage is invisible. It happens in the space between words, energy, tone, body language. Most people don't say they want you to fail, they leak it. You'll hear it in their delayed response when you share good news. You'll feel it in how quickly they change the subject back to themselves. You'll see it in the way their enthusiasm fades the bigger you get. They used to encourage you. Now they warn you to be careful. They used to hype your ideas. Now they question your plan B. They used to believe in you. Now they tell you to slow down. At face value, it all seems rational, concerned, friendly. But underneath that politeness is something darker. Fear. Not fear for you, fear of what your growth means for them. And their mind has to reconcile it, so it does something dangerous. It begins to rewrite your identity. You're no longer the friend who's chasing big goals. Now you're the arrogant one, the lucky one, or worse, the one who changed. But you didn't change. You evolved. They just stayed in place. Section 2. Behavioral patterns that expose saboteurs. Pattern number 1. The disappearing act. They were always around before. The calls, the hangouts, the support, consistent. But the moment you started to rise, they started to fade. Just been busy, they'll say. But it's not time that changed, it's power dynamics. You stopped being relatable, and people fear what they don't understand. Pattern number 2, the one-upper. You share a win, they share a bigger one. You launch a business, they have a startup too. You hit the gym, they suddenly used to train athletes. They can't celebrate you without needing to recenter the spotlight. Pattern number 3, the ghost cheerleader. They'll never publicly disrespect you, but they'll also never like, comment, or share your work, even though they see it. They watch your stories, they lurk, but their silence speaks volumes. They don't want to support you, but they also don't want to be exposed as unsupportive, so they become invisible until you fail, then suddenly they reappear to check in. Pattern number 4, the backhanded compliment. You're doing great. I guess success changes people. You're lucky things worked out for you. Must be nice to not have real problems. They smile when they say it, but their words are venom wrapped in sugar. These aren't coincidences, these are patterns, and patterns are truth repeated. Section 3, Tactics of Silent Sabotage. Tactic number 1, the doubt seed. This one's the most common. They don't attack your goal, they question your path. Are you sure that's a smart move? What if it doesn't work out? I just don't want to see you get hurt. They pretend to protect you, but really they're protecting themselves from having to witness someone commit to something they were too afraid to try. Tactic number 2, isolation through gossip. They don't confront you, they reframe you in conversations you'll never hear. They're different now. They're just chasing clout. They think they're better than us. It starts slow, spreads wide, and eventually isolates you from circles you once trusted. And the worst part, you'll feel the shift before you hear it. Tactic number 3, strategic neglect. They won't show up when it matters. Launch day, opening night, your first live event. They'll forget, be busy, or catch the next one. But if you fail, they'll hear about it instantly. This tactic is rooted in a quiet hope that your flame dims just enough to not blind them. Tactic number 4, emotional drain. They don't sabotage you directly. They just exhaust your focus. Drama, emotional chaos, constant problems. They weaponize their crisis to distract you from your mission, because as long as you're helping tikkins, hem kopi, you're too drained to chase your own calling. 5, false praise. The most deceptive tactic. They applaud you, but only for the version of you that doesn't threaten them. They'll support your art as long as it stays a hobby. They'll cheer for your business as long as it doesn't make real money. The moment your progress becomes undeniable, the support evaporates. Because they didn't love you, they loved the version of you that stayed beneath them. The strength to see it clearly. Recognition is painful. Seeing the silent war for what it is, a quiet campaign against your rise, requires emotional strength. It forces you to let go of comfort, illusion, and sometimes people. But clarity is a weapon, and once you're armed with it, the fog lifts. You stop taking things personally. You stop chasing their approval. You stop explaining your ambition to people who've already decided to resent it. Turning hate into fuel. Stoic power, emotional control, strategic response. If you're reading this, you've already seen the cracks. You've felt the silence, the subtle digs, the sudden distance. You've recognized the patterns, spotted the sabotage, and faced the fact that most people, even some close to you, would rather see you struggle than soar. But now comes the part that separates the shaken from the unshakable. What you do with that truth. You can let their jealousy paralyze you, or you can turn it into rocket fuel. This is where the game changes, where your response becomes more important than their reaction, and where your strength isn't just how much you can lift, but how deeply you can remain unmoved, unshaken, unbothered. In this final part, we're going to transform envy into energy, not by fighting them, but by mastering you. Through Stoic discipline, emotional detachment, strategic isolation, and the ruthless clarity it takes to win without needing validation. Because the highest form of power isn't domination, it's indifference. Section 1. Detaching from the need to be understood. Most of your pain doesn't come from people resisting you. It comes from you trying to make them understand. You want them to see your vision. You want them to believe in your dream. You want them to cheer for you like you once cheered for them, but they won't. Not because they're evil, but because they're human, and most humans only see what mirrors their comfort. The moment you require their understanding, you give them control. Stoicism teaches us this. If it's outside your control, it's irrelevant. That includes their opinions, their support, their reactions. You don't need their applause to validate your steps. You don't need their clarity to walk your path. You need only your will. So stop waiting for the "I'm proud of you." Stop hoping for their cheer. Let their silence echo while your results speak. Section 2. Silence as strategy. You don't need to explain your moves. Your success will make the loudest noise. This is where many lose the battle. They try to justify their growth. They explain their ambition. They defend their progress to people who've already decided to resent it. That's emotional bleeding, and it drains power. Power moves in silence. It doesn't argue. It doesn't beg to be seen. It just builds. Let them misjudge you. Let them think you've fallen off. Let them assume you've slowed down. Then blind them with results. Your silence will disturb them more than your words ever could. Section 3. Building with cold clarity. The greatest revenge is success built in cold blood. Not hate, not bitterness, but surgical focus. When you realize people don't want you to win, something shifts. You stop asking, you start executing. You move from emotional to intentional, from hopeful to calculated. You wake up with fire, but it's silent, still, focused, no more wasting. Time trying to bring everyone with you. No more pausing your mission to explain your vision. You cut, refine, and rise. Because the truth is, the fewer people you need, the stronger you become. Section 4. Using envy as a compass. Here's the twist. The more resistance you face, the more confirmation you've found your edge. If no one is threatened by your growth, you're probably still playing small. Envy isn't always an attack. Sometimes it's a signal, a sign you've tapped into something powerful, something rare. When people get quiet, you get louder, not in volume, but in presence. When support disappears, you build momentum in silence. When you're doubted, you double down. Use their resentment as a compass. Every cold shoulder is proof you've outgrown the space. Every jealous comment is a whisper that you're moving into rare territory. Don't resent it. Recognize it. Section 5. Strategic isolation. Lions hunt alone. So do kings. So do warriors in the building phase. There's a time for community, for collaboration, for sharing the table. But when you're under silent attack, when envy surrounds you, you need space, stillness. Isolation, not as punishment, but as preparation. Strategic solitude sharpens the mind. It cuts emotional noise. It centers your vision. And when you return with fire in your lungs and steel in your spine. Isolation is not loneliness, it's leverage. Section 6. Unbreakable Stoicism. The Stoics believed in this. Control your inner world, and the outer world loses its grip. You will be misunderstood. You will be doubted. You will be quietly opposed. But none of that matters, because you've built from within. No praise can inflate you. No hate can deflate you. No silence can shake you. You become a force of nature, not loud, not violent, just undeniable, just present, just real. Final word, they wanted you to fail. Use that energy to win. Every ignored message, every fake smile, every jealous stare, it was never about you. It was about them, their fears, their insecurity, their small thinking. But you saw it, you faced it, you used it. They wanted you to quit, you turned it into hunger. They wanted you to slow down, you hit overdrive. They wanted you silent, you spoke in action. Now you walk different, you move different. Not because you're better, but because you chose truth over comfort, because you learned the rules of the game and rewrote them. This is how you win, not with noise, not with hate, but with discipline. Let them talk, let them doubt, let them hope you fail, then show them how it's done.